All right, good morning. I will call the meeting to order at 10:08. Uh, First, first order of business is, are there any additions or deletions to our agenda? Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of minutes from June 9th. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 9th? Motion made by Loretta. Is there a second? Second by Jason. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. So next up is our committee discussion. We're going to basically, for those that missed the brief dialogue before we started, the Criminal Justice Council is establishing the alternative pathways to certification. This is a legislative mandate that is one of the responsibilities of the council, and it will primarily be looking at some of the things that we as a work group have already identified will need to be considered. So that would be like alternative pathways, level 2 to level 3, maybe considering level 1 to level 2, and what all of that looks like. It's discussing the Johnson State CLEP project or program, and just a variety of other factors. So with that, where we're going to be focusing as a committee will be to identify either what we have the bandwidth to complete with our current report, or identify as a recommendation for that future committee to take on, which may include the discussions around like FTO and supervision and other types of training that we've identified, but said we just can't get into that because we don't have the time or the resources to do it. So really, we are going to be pivoting our work to finalizing our report, and either filling out the report or basically acknowledging we can't complete the work in the allotted amount of time. We'll pass that as a recommendation to that committee and just cut it out of our report. I feel like anytime I say something, the second time I don't do as good of a job. So is there anything I've left out for those of you who've heard me say it before? Or Director, do you have anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think I'll leave it to, the group to discuss if they're aligned with that process. And it makes sense to me, given the fact that there are going to be a lot of other folks that will be within that work group, and their recommendation will be comprehensive with some solutions, not just ideas. So that's my hope.
Any thoughts from the committee?
Wow, silence.
Mark, can you pull up
I-
the current our current recommendations so far? The our progress report?
Yeah. Just need to find which version is the most current one. Oh, okay, I already had it open. Domenica, were you going to say something while I work on the technology side of this?
No, I was just gonna say that plan sounds like a good organic kind of progression for where our committee is to where picking up more substantial detailed work that works off our recommendations, but that can do a deeper dive than we're able to do. So I'm just gonna voice my support.
Great. Is there somewhere you want me to go to, Loretta? Recommendations?
I thought if we just either that or start at the top and see what we haven't covered, what we have covered, and see maybe say let's strike that and You know what I mean? Just go through it to see what we've got and
Great. So our
So-
recommendations, these have already been presented to the council, and the reason why I have a version A and a version B is because as I was assembling this version of the report, I started to find where we either had reduced to writing certain thoughts, but they may not have been part of the recommendation to the council. But preserving what we did formally recommend, that is version A. Version B will be thoughts that we may have had discussion on, worked on, did something with, but ultimately did not find its way into the council recommendation. So I didn't want to destroy it without people putting eyes on and saying, yeah, we're not doing that. And that could also be the diving board platform to that follow-on committee's work. We can also just delete it as well. So we made the recommendation to establish the level 1, level 2 joint academy. We made the recommendation to adopt a schedule for that academy for both level 1 and for level 2. We made a recommendation to adopt the phase 2 requirements for level 1. FTO hours for level 1 and level 2. And those were all accepted by the council, I believe unanimously, but it doesn't matter if there's unanimity. It did pass the council. And then version B, this is again just my shorthand of notes or a framework that we were building out. We may have made some of these recommendations. I just didn't want to delete them without eyes on. So if you see anything in there that we didn't cover in short-term recommendations, let me know.
Mark, I think your level 2 recommendations there in green. I think they were all discussed at the council meeting and were consistent with what the group had recommended that the council supported.
Yep. I don't disagree. I didn't want to delete this since we had it in writing, but my read was we covered almost everything in version A. This is just more of an outline. So if somebody had a thought in there that did not make it into the council recommendation, I didn't want to lose their thought.
Gotcha.
So I'm being a little cautious before I hit the big delete button. Anyone have anything they want to talk about from version B short-term recommendations? Hearing nothing, I'm going to delete this. And then version B long-term recommendations. We wanted to contemplate the learning objectives and measurables for the level 2 curriculum. Find statutorily required language. Consider the level 2 to level 3 alternative pathway. And really, I think that these are 3 things that we break out or really just retitle what is currently Section J as long-term recommendations as recommendations for consideration to the Alternative Pathways Committee, and we call that good.
I agree with you.
Any dissenting opinions? Does anyone remember why we wanted to define statutorily required language?
I was just gonna ask. what that meant. So I don't remember what we were getting at.
And Director, does it make sense for us to have the Alternative Pathways Committee consider learning objectives and measurables? Some of this we're waiting on the work of IATLA, so we just haven't been able to do it. But I'm not sure if that's outside of the scope of what they're looking at or not.
I would say for the moment that that's outside of the scope for them to look at. And I guess the other question I would have, and again, I don't want to try to steer or rush you guys. I'm just curious are you trying to edit this in the way so that you would be able to make a recommendation and or a report by the council meeting on July 2nd? And the only reason I ask that is because I'm going to be giving that new work group some documents that have been identified already. I would like to include this report in the initial learning up documents that work group will get. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, but it can be an additional document if it's later on.
For us to accomplish that, we would need to basically have this completed today. Or we would have to have a special meeting before July 2nd, which is next week. So I guess I would say it is not my intention to have this.
What else do we need to do on it?
Oh, that's a great question. Just to finish my thought, it was not my intention to have this done today, but we can. That's done. That's done.
In all fairness to your committee too, I'm not trying to rush this through. If that group can start early to mid-July, which is my hope, even if it's on their first meeting that they decide when they're going to meet, it can be a document that would be ready for them to review then as well.
Okay. I think I just need to drop in the updated attachments, which I think Ken has sent to me, or I sent to Ken, or Dan sent to me, or something like that. I think these are all done. So I guess really we need to decide if this is at a point where we're content with.
I propose that we move this forward and let the next committee do their job. I think we've gone as far as we can with what we were supposed to do.
One thing, so we are waiting on this to be reduced, the strength section be reduced into a paragraph as opposed to bullet points. Not to say we can't continue with what you just suggested, Loretta. It's just it would be inconsistent with some of the sections, but whatever. Rob, have you got this part written into paragraph? I'm sorry, the opportunity section written into paragraph form?
Yeah, I do. I just have to finalize it. It's essentially a blurb. I'll get it to you today or tomorrow.
Okay. And we haven't seen Trevor in a while, so we need to do threats. So I guess the question is, do we reduce these to paragraph form or not? Do the bullet points capture our thought process well enough? Uh, do we need section 11?
I think we delete that.
I agree.
The future view.
I agree.
Okay. I already voted to approve that, so whatever. So let's see, review. Go to the top. Table of contents will need to be fixed. So we would need to write about the report if we want to. Chris, do we have a statutory obligation to write or convene this group?
An obligation? No.
This was us being us, I use the royal we, forward thinking about concerns of the level 2 program and liabilities.
Yep.
Does that seem like a reasonable sentence?
Do we want to put in maybe the resources of entry-level law enforcement officers instead of teaching so that it encompasses like field train, all of the things that we've talked about?
Resources. Any other thoughts? We good with marking this section good? Okay. Have we had Whit here at all?
He was here last meeting.
Okay. I'm almost at our meeting before this, June 9th. Anybody aware of other people involved other than DMV? Mark Pullen is doing traffic control stuff. Any others? So I'll drop that down to an attachment. Prior to changing the hours in our recommendation, what was the phase 3 number of hours? 60?
60.
And that's for in service?
No, that was for field training. Yeah, that
I'm
was
sorry,
field
for,
training.
yes, field training.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know that C or D are necessary here.
I say we delete. We didn't do anything with that.
Even though I already did it. Anybody disagree?
Nope.
Cool. Are we good with our goals as written?
Looks good to me.
Is there on the liability piece, is it a way to say, we use the word decrease, can we say address? Like, I don't know. It sounds a little like failure. Maybe just addressing things without saying that there was a decrease in anything. Perfect.
Did we not write up patrol?
I believe we did.
I thought we did too. I might not have copy and pasted it in. That came from you, right, Loretta?
Yes, yes, Jason, I am Wit.
It what?
Good morning. Sorry for my tardiness.
It's all right. We'll take it out of your pay. All right. Should this reflect if there are crimes where the investigation goes beyond the officer's scope of authority?
Sure. I mean, yeah.
And would someone mind looking up this statutory reference so we can just call it out if someone wanted to go look for this in the future?
Give me a second.
Mark, for that, it's 20 VSA 2358.
2358. Do you know the subsection?
I don't off the top of my head, and the one that I have in front of me doesn't have the subsection listed. I'm sorry.
No worries. And then we would also want this reference for the CLEP alternative pathways.
Let's see. What were you looking for on the scope of practice?
2358, what subsection this is copy and pasted from?
It is XXXVIII 2B.
Of course, it's that complicated.
And what other
And
one were you looking for?
Do the one that talks about the alternative pathways, July 1 of 21, having the
Gotcha.
CLEP program. And then I am curious, I would challenge this sentence as not being true. There's nothing that requires a sheriff, including the Constitution, to have any certification. And then deputy sheriffs as well. There are things called civil deputies that do not have law enforcement authority, but they serve some of the functions of the office. So if nobody's opposed,
My
suggest we just
apologies. I
delete this.
meant those serving in law enforcement capacity. But yeah, if you want to change that, however, to make it read correctly, that's fine. I just meant those who are going to be in law enforcement, like patrol type positions.
Okay. Are you good with me just deleting it?
If that's what you want, sure. When we went over it, we talked about the sheriffs and then constables positions. That's the only reason I put it in there, is that was in the original ask. Okay, that statute is section 3 B2. Or C2.
2358?
Yes.
Okay.
Or C2.
C2?
C2. If I'm reading that correctly.
Are we good with this section? See thumbs. See head nods. All right, what's our pleasure? Do we want paragraphs or do we just want to accept the bullet points?
Mark, I think at this point, just the bullet points for expediency.
Works for me.
I agree.
For consistency, and because it's already written, do we want to keep this paragraph section for weaknesses? We have bullet points as well.
I think we keep it just because that might give them a starting place.
Okay. We good with our bullet points?
Yeah, I'm good with them.
What's going on? We good with this? It's just formatting. Are we good with threats? Seeing head nods, thumbs.
Yep, good.
All right, we've already done this recommendation. Are we good with these recommendations, alternative pathways, and are there any others we want to include? And Chris, are there any that you think you've heard us talk about that you would like to see made as recommendations to the committee?
I think the only thing, I mean, level one, since that was a recommendation to the council that was looked upon favorably, then if level one could be another topic for discussion within that work group. I specifically had asked for this work group for two topics, level 2 to level 3, and also for the training aside from the academy, but those conversations could develop into level 1. It's not going to be an additional charge. So if you wanted to make that recommendation in your report, or at least identify it as an issue.
Sure. Good enough? Any other recommendations? Hearing none. So attachment A, I do believe Ken has sent me the updated version. I do believe Ken has the corrected versions. He's still on vacation, right, Chris?
Yeah, he's gone this entire week.
Would it be safe to say if we make basically a schedule of attachments, attachment A being the schedule we recommended to the council? I know we already have that. Attachment B being the different forms, the DORs, the FTEP and CEC, all those things. Could those just be assembled?
Yeah, I could.
Uh, cool. So aside from formatting issues, which I can work on, and Guess we need to fill this in. See, executive summary. Do we want to even have an executive summary? I think it's pretty straightforward. It is 29 pages though, so I have an idea. I let the robot write this, but I think it does a pretty good job based on my skimming.
Sometimes when you don't have the executive summary, it forces everyone to read it. There's also that.
Yeah, but given that half of this document is an outline, I'm not sure that someone reading it cold is necessarily going to understand what they're reading, other than this is a topic. All right, so that was that part. Sorry. So we can keep this, we can dump it. ChatGPT is our architect on this one, so I don't really care. What do y'all think?
Mark, are you referring just to the strategic impact paragraph?
Or
Or the
have an
whole thing?
executive summary, the whole thing.
Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, summaries are nice. I can go either way, I guess.
Honestly, it's not that difficult to read anyway, with most of it being in bullet points.
All right, who wants to keep it?
I support bullet points as it was. I don't know what choice that is, but
Uh, is that getting rid of it, Dominica? I don't know.
the pre-chat GPT version, is that what I'm referring to then?
Yes.
Then yes, that would be my vote, but
Let's just dump all of this.
I second that.
Okay. So I will entertain a motion that someone's gonna have the correct words, that we approve the report in, what is it, form but not format? Because we need to do updates for font sizes, the table of contents, just those technical things. Am I saying that right?
I move to approve the content of the report.
That works. Is there a
Second
second?
that.
Moved and seconded. Are there any discussion on this? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye or raise a hand.
Aye.
Aye.
hi.
Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Great. I don't know that we have any level 1 materials to review. I think we're waiting on Ken for something. But Rob, you sent those over to Ken, right?
Yes, he has those.
So after Ken gets back from vacation, he can do whatever. And I assume, Chris, that we should just direct anyone who's doing curriculum development for level 1 to you and Ken.
That would make the most sense. I didn't even think to ask, and my apologies for not asking. Rob, do you have any interest in joining that work group that I know doesn't impact a lot, but it does with the potential level 1, or is that something you'd rather stay out of?
No, I'd be happy to have involvement, especially for talking, those elements of judiciary curriculum. That could be me, or I may assign someone to it, but yes, please.
Okay, good.
All right, with our 4 minutes remaining, is there any public comment? Hearing none, I think this pretty much concludes our work. My intention is to go through, finish the formatting stuff. The Academy will add on the attachments for us, which we'll wait for Ken to get back, but we'll get the final version of the report circulated. I don't see a need for us to have any future meetings. Does anyone disagree or have a different thought?
Mark, just a question that I have, if waiting for Ken to get back just to go over the attachments and make sure, are you still looking for this approval to submit this recommended report to the council minus the attachments, which will follow after your approval in the council meeting? I don't want to give him one day to try to find these documents and attach them to your report before the council meeting.
I think the fair thing to do, because all of those documents the council's already seen, there was just typos, which we called out and said they'll need to be fixed, but they weren't. So I think all we need to do is circulate this to the council in its draft form, saying it's been signed off on, but there's some final things to do so that we don't put Ken in the bum rush. But the final version of it will include the attachments. There's nothing new for the council to see in those documents.
Right. Okay, fair enough.
I mean, these are the same ones from December 2024.
Yeah.
So I will get you a clean copy of this, Chris, before next week, hopefully within the next day or two. And then once we have the version that has all the attachments in it, if you could get that circulated for the group.
Yep.
So that everyone else has it. But I think that means that we have no further work to do. So please accept my thanks for all of your work participating in this group. Know that there was a lot of effort put into what we were able to accomplish, and I think there's an acknowledgement of everyone's working and trying to cover the gaps, the issues that we have identified historically being part of the problem of why some of these things don't progress. But I do appreciate all of you showing up, committing your time and your days to do this. So there's no other comments. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Thanks for all your work, Mark.
Happy to help.
I'll second.
Agreed. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you,
for
Mark.
leadership.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
So moved by Loretta, second by Jason. All in favor, say aye or raise a hand.
Aye.
Opposed can stay here. Take care, everyone.
Take care.
Thanks,
Be
Mark.
well,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.